exercise 3. Okay, so here we're going to compute first year depreciation and book value. So if you remember, book value is our cost of our asset less any accumulated depreciation, and that's how we get our book value. And we're going to calculate first year depreciation for this Alaska Freight Airlines purchase using all 3 methods that we've discussed in the chapter. So straight line, units of production, and double declining. And we're going to calculate each of those calculations for this example. Okay, so we're going to look at, first it says they purchased a used airplane for $43 million, and they expect the plane to remain useful for 5 years and have a residual value of $7 million. Okay, and the useful life is either 5 years or 4 million miles, and they expect it to be flown 1.4 million miles during the first year. So A, we're going to use the straight line method. Well, straight line, we're going to take our cost less our residual value and divide it by the estimated useful life in years. Okay, so this means this is going to equal the cost, which was $43 million, minus that residual value of $7 million, and divided by 5 years. Okay, so that gives me let's change that. $36 million divided by 5 years. So 36 million divided by 5 years. So my depreciation for year 1 using straight line is $7.2 million. Now the thing with straight line is that's going to be the same every year unless something changes. So this is my annual depreciation. Straight line, it's not going to change. Okay, so this does not change from year to year, and that's for a full year depreciation. So if they didn't buy this or put this into use until the middle of the year, we would have to take a fraction of this for the time we did use this asset. Okay, now let's look at B. So now we're going to look at units of production. So units of production, it's still going to equal the cost minus the residual value, except we're going to divide it by the estimated useful life in units. Okay, and for this example, it's going to be the number of miles we expect this airplane to be useful for. So we still have 43 million minus 7 million, except now we're going to divide it by the 4 million miles. Okay, so this is going to be equal to the 36 million divided by 4 million miles. Okay, so this right here, this is my depreciation per mile. Okay, whatever the unit is. So this is my depreciation per mile. So that's not the only step we have to take with units of production though. We have to take that $9 per mile. So the second step is to multiply the per mile depreciation, or per unit, I'll put per unit, by the units used for the year. Okay, so, and this doesn't change. So that is our per mile rate, and that does not change, okay, unless the useful life of the asset changes or something. So in the second step, I'm going to have to take $9 per mile times the 1.4 million miles flown for year 1. Okay. Hold on. So this is going to be 9 times that's going to be our depreciation. So 9 times 1.4 million, and that's our depreciation for year 1. And this depreciation for units of production is going to change from year to year based on usage. Okay, so this more accurately reflects how much the actual depreciation. If we're using something heavily, it's based on like miles or usage, hours we use the machine, things like that. It's going to more accurately reflect actual depreciation. So straight line, it's the same every year, doesn't change from year to year, and units of production changes from year to year based on our usage. All right, now let's get to what we call double declining balance, and this is where it's going to result in the most depreciation expense early on in the life of the asset. Okay, so here we're still going to take the cost, except for now we're going to subtract out our accumulated depreciation, and we're going to multiply this by 2 divided by the life. Okay, in your book it does times 2 times 1 over the life, but it's still the same as times 2 over the life. All right, so in this example, we're going to take the 43 million minus 0 for the first year. Because this is the first year of operations, we haven't actually used it yet. So there's no accumulated depreciation. We don't have any accumulated depreciation until we use and depreciate the asset. Okay, so that's the first part. Then we're going to multiply it by 2 over the life of 5 years. Okay, and this is going to result in more depreciation early on. Okay, so essentially we're going to take 43 million times 2 divided by 5. So this is our first year depreciation using the double declining balance. And you can see that it's more than the units of production, and it's just about almost double or more than double the straight line. So you can't just take straight line and multiply it by 2 to get the double declining balance. You have to use this calculation and factor it in. All right. So, and just so you would know, so if we wanted to do double declining balance, now this is our accumulated depreciation. It adds to our accumulated depreciation account. That would be what we would put in place of the 0 in this calculation for next year. All right. Now let's look at, it says, show the Plains book value at the end of the first year for all 3 methods. Okay. So this would be, our book value would be 43 million minus the 7.2 million here. So that would be our book value. All right, and then same thing down here, our book value would be 43 million minus the 12,600,000. And then same thing for double declining. So we take 43 million minus the 17,200,000. And there's our book value under double declining. Okay, if you have any questions on any of those calculations, post your question to the discussion forum or send me an email. All right.